raise your hand or type something in chat, a Y in chat, just to let me know you can hear me, and then we'll get started. Right, that's a few of you, but by no means everyone. Alex, can you hear me? And Andy, can you hear me? Please raise your hand. That's better. Okay. All right. All right. I will take it that the majority can hear me. Maybe you can't all find the raise hand button, but perhaps we'll get on to this. And I do apologize if I don't understand this system as well as I might, and I'm sure I will in the future. But this is new to me as well. This is the first time I've given a presentation over this medium. So I hope that it works. We'll get the best out of it that we can, and I hope to move forward as best we can. Right. So given that being said, let's get started now. So why are we here today? I want to really go over that. It's slightly different from the normal meeting. So I won't be able to deal with anyone's specific PC issues. If you do have a specific issue in installing WinWay, then please, after this session, email me at support@winwaycharts.com and just let me know your problems, and we will get round it some way. I've got plenty of instructions I can give. There are ways we can get round virtually every problem that you may have. So please email me if you have any problems in installing, and we'll do it on a one-to-one basis and get you sorted in place of the workshop, which we normally have in the morning. So what are we trying to do today? Today, what we're trying to do then is for me to be able to show you how you might use WinWay in your trading life, to explain how it works, why it works, what it does, perhaps more importantly, what it does. And then you can start to understand how it can be useful in your trading life and start to make the most of the trial, which is the way into the product, to start with that trial. So today I'm not going to be I will be going through the product, but I won't be going through in a sense to instruct you how to use it, because I think that will perhaps confuse. We've got 2 hours, so that's a good chunk of time, but WinWay is quite a complex and comprehensive product, and we couldn't hope in that time to bring everyone up to speed. So although many of you may have the system already installed and might want to follow what I'm doing on the screen, probably better that you actually keep your eyes on the screen and concentrating so that you can get the best out of the session. The practice and fixing whatever issues you're not able to achieve, we can deal with either after the session or using the help text, which I will be pointing you to during the session. So again, I won't expect you to be coming out as experts at the end of this, but I will expect people to understand what it is that WinWay does and how it came about and how you might take it forward in your trading process. So what is WinWay? Perhaps it bears explaining that too. And who am I? Perhaps I should explain and so you understand who I am. My name's Ray Foreman, and I operate the WinWay program in conjunction with Steve Hill, who is the proprietor of WinWay. He is basically a US, well, not US citizen, he's a Brit, but he's out there in the US where the company was formed, and he runs AIQ Systems, which is the company that developed the WinWay software. It all started many moons back, probably 10, 12 years ago, when Darren was using a product I used to represent, a product called MyTrack. And MyTrack was operated by a company called Track Data. Don't worry about these names. They're just names. They're not important. But nevertheless, just to put it in perspective, I used to work for Track Data and came across Darren, who was using our product MyTrack to trade. And he started to show the product to his clients and trainees so they could benefit from it too. And it got to the stage where he said to me, Ray, how about we go a step further? Do you have anything else that you can help me with to trade like I trade and help me in the training process? So I went away to the States and spoke to our people out there, and they came up with a company that had just been acquired by Track Data called AIQ Systems. And AIQ Systems ran a technical analysis package. So I got myself a copy. I played with it. I got back to Steve and said, "This sounds good. That's great." Hold it 1 second. I just had a chat from someone. Please excuse me because I'm not completely at home with this. I just have to answer a chat here. Right. I took the software, AIQ software, to Darren, and he looked at it, and he then looked me in the face, and he had a face of rage. And I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "This is exactly how I trade. It's exactly what I wanted. Why have you been holding this back from me all these years?" So I told him we just acquired the company, etc., etc. He relaxed, I relaxed, and we sat down and said, "Okay, how do we move this forward?" So we got Steve across from the States. We sat down and we worked out how we could use the AIQ software to better trade as Darren does, and how he could use it with his clients. So we added UK data because it was a US product. We added some of Darren's custom indicators into the program, took some of his strategies and wrote programs so we could demonstrate and show those and run them. We then launched a product called WinWay, and that's how we got to the WinWay product, which is basically AIQ and AIQ with some bells and whistles added to it, as I explained before. So if you're ever talking and around the system and you say AIQ Systems or AIQ Trading Expert Pro, read WinWay Trading Expert Pro, and it is the same product. Right, now I'm trying to see how I can show my face to you, but I don't think I can here. Okay. Right, so we have WinWay. And Darren, went on to provide WinWay to his clients. Now, why is it that WinWay is a solution which Darren's looking at? And that's what I want to explore. WinWay is a different product from many others. It's not just a charting package. It's more than that. It's technical analysis, which means, yes, it has charts, but also it does a lot more than that. It analyzes the markets and it looks at all of the stocks in the market and then comes up with some trading strategy. So it doesn't come up with strategy, it has some strategies, but basically if you have a strategy, you can set that strategy into the system and it picks the stocks for you which fit that strategy. So then once you know the stocks you're looking at, you can look at the chart, and naturally that's at the end of the day how you're analyzing things through the chart. But there are lots of tools and bells and whistles on it which I will take you through as we go through the session. Firstly, I want to share my screen with you. A moment. Right, now can everyone see my screen here? I've just got a WinWay Trading Expert Pro session on, and let's see. Right, so the first thing I want to show you is the website. And now whilst WinWay is not a web product, and really almost this explains proves the rule rather than be an exception to it. You don't need a web browser to actually use WinWay. It's an application that's installed on your PC, and this gives you control over the data that comes into it, because all of the data that you're working on is held in your PC. All of the software is on your PC. The only connection you have with the outside world on a daily basis to update your data, and that's the daily update, and that takes 5 minutes whenever you want to do it. You can do it while you're put the coffee on in the morning, you can do it late at night, you can do it automatically and get it to update while you're asleep, for that matter. You just
Ray,
give it a time.
can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Steve.
Ray? Yeah, hi everybody. You need to minimize your little chat box that you have, because it actually gets in the way of the screen. I'll handle all the chat, so just get that out of the way.
Okay, no, I can't. I've got a currently sharing window, but I haven't got a chat box.
Like minimize it, or just X on it to get rid of it.
Minimize my screen. No, just clear everything else.
There you go. It's gone.
Is that better?
Now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep that down the bottom. Got you. Okay.
I'm
Thanks, Steve. Oh, by the way, everyone, that's Steve.
Hi, everybody. I'm in California.
Yes, thanks, Steve. Steve has kindly set this up for us, so we can do it in pretty quick time, and set the webinar room up for us. And he's, as you can hear, popped in to give me a hand, make sure it's working. So thanks, Steve. But Steve is the proprietor, as I mentioned before, of AIQ Systems and WinWayCharts that it runs within that. Right. So we are saying that WinWay is an application rather than a web browser-based product, and this brings benefits for us, which I will show you later how we benefit from that. But the first benefit is that other than the 5 minutes a day to update your data, you don't need to be attached to the internet, and you can be working away wherever you are and get instant reaction to your trading day. Because when you're on the web and you're clicking and you're going across to another server somewhere, God knows where it can be, it all takes time, and I'll show you how quickly you can look at your data when you have that data on your PC and under your control. Okay, the other benefit, and it is a great benefit, is that when you have a browser-based product, most companies produce browser-based products, so they can be, fleet of foot in following the market and creating a better user experience. But they get carried away with that, and you find that the user experience gets improved every other day. How many of you have woken up one morning, opened up a web product, and you get the sign, the warning that says, welcome to version 1.7.6.8.3, your new and improved software, where you can do great things that you'll love better. And then you get to find the things that you've been using have just disappeared, or in a different place, or just don't work the same way, etc., etc. It's very frustrating. Trading is about consistency. It's about looking at the markets in the same way, with the same data, and looking at stocks as they move forward. If I was to say to someone, Apple's trading at 246 today, is that useful information? Not really. It's not really useful unless you know what it was yesterday. It's very different if it was 245 yesterday or if it was 145 yesterday. It tells you a lot more about today. So with stocks and following them, and not just stocks, but all tradable instruments, it's the history that counts. It's where it's been, it's where it's aimed at that you're interested in. So looking at things in a consistent way is really the key to making good trading decisions. And when you've got the application on your PC and it hasn't changed overnight, that's a great way of controlling that environment. It's not to say that WinWayCharts does not move. It does. We have different flavors of it, and we do upgrade it from time to time, but you're in complete control when you upgrade and why you upgrade and what you're getting when you upgrade. So it's a lot more controllable application in that sense. So I did mention that the web is the place to start, even though it's not the place to finish, because on the web we've got our website, which is winwaycharts.com. There's lots of useful information there for you, particularly in the getting help section. So just to explain, to go right down here, we have manuals. The whole system is built with PDF manuals that if you want to print out, you're perfectly welcome and entitled to. There's about 1,100 pages, and it gives you a nice fat block of paper on your desk if you want to print out. I wouldn't recommend it, just like most manuals. They're very useful when you want to take a subject and go into it in a bit more detail, bit by bit, and when you need it, but not everything at the beginning. You'll find that as you go through the product, you start with what you need and what you know, and you build on that to start learning the things you don't know. And as your trading progresses, your requirement for different parts of the system will grow. So if you look at WinWayCharts a bit like Excel, that's a product that a lot of people just use to add up a column of figures and type them out. And that's great. Others use them for lookup tables and macros and add all sorts of interesting developments that you can make. Most of us don't use those, but when you need them, they're there. And that's pretty much like WinWay. It is there throughout your trading process, from a complete beginner when you just want to look at a chart and move on, to becoming a sophisticated or professional investor when you want to use a lot more of the features and functionality. Nevertheless, the manual is there with everything that's on the system. Support is a great place to be, because in there you will see all the ways to get help. And that's a splash that's come up to tell you to be here. You don't need that, you're here. So you can get phone support on the left, email, a link to the tutorials and to webinar archives, where people who are using WinWay or AIQ for that matter have actually had some webinars, and they're posted there, so you have the benefit of using those. The online manuals, again, there's a link there to them as well. So good place to go if you need to find help, although there's plenty of help on the product, as we'll see when we get there. There's a list here of when the free seminars are. They won't be quite the same, but I expect to maintain these sorts of seminars while this current situation is going, and we'll be posting the dates on there. How do you sign up? Every so often there are the tutorial videos again there. If you need new ticker symbols and list files, we can go through those, but I'll explain about lists and ticker symbols a bit later. Also updating these SP500 groups and sectors. I'll explain that later too when we get to groups and sectors. But lots of interesting stuff going on the website. There's a blog, and Steve posts a fair bit of articles and items of interest, and you can sign up for that by just subscribing to posts down here, and you can get the benefit of the blogs that come up. There's something that Steve has just posted recently, and recent posts on the side here, and a knowledge base as well. So there's lots of interesting things on the blog, but that's not the product, that's around the product, in and around the product, to help you either with the admin of it or to get some help. But the product itself I'll now take you to, so we can start to look and see what we're getting. Now I've opened it up already, but let me close it down. On your desktop, when you've installed, you will have an icon such as this that's automatically placed there. And when it is, just double click on that icon and what we call the quick launch menu is opened. This is just a bunch of icons which represent the different features within WinWay. And you can get to each of the features just by clicking on those icons. Today I'm going to be going through some, but not all of these features, because some, like Portfolio and Matchmaker, are quite advanced topics, and topics typically which Darren's trainees won't need while they are trainees, but will need it as they move forward. The Portfolio, for instance, keeps track when you have a multi-asset portfolio of maybe some stocks, maybe some currency, maybe some futures, maybe some options, and it helps you to balance your portfolio. So you can tell it what your goals are for your portfolio, and if you need to keep it 50% in equities, it'll tell you when you need to buy or sell equities and to keep your portfolio in balance. And it will constantly value your portfolio so you know where you are. And if you're in options, if you need some options, it will even go as far as telling you which options you might like to buy or sell to balance the risk factors you put in to your portfolio, because it's just not the holdings, but the kind of risks you want to place on them as well. So it's when you've got a sophisticated portfolio, as I hope you will move on to have, then you will be able to manage it in Portfolio when the time comes. Equally, Matchmaker is a sophisticated part of the program. What that does is, perhaps it would be better to discuss it later when we've discussed indexes, but it enables you to actually create an index of your own. As we know, indexes really are there because the stocks within those indexes move in the same way, typically in the same way. And what Matchmaker does is it allows the system to go and look at all the stocks it has in the system and analyze them and work out that the criteria that you're looking for, the type of movement you're looking for, whether it's up, down, sideways, whatever, it looks at all those stocks that are moving the same way. So effectively creating an artificial index. And you might say, why do I need to know an artificial index? And the answer is because you're always trying to reduce your risk and minimize your risks. And what buying an index does is it does minimize that risk, because if you know that an index is moving in a certain way, then buying stocks within that index pretty much tells you that those stocks are going to move the same way as the index. And that's useful because not every stock moves all the time with the index, just the majority most of the time. So if you pick 2 or 3 stocks in an index to invest in, you've got a better idea, a better chance that maybe 2 of those 3 will follow the index, and maybe the third one won't. But it will help you to minimize that risk by spreading it between 2 good ones and a bad one, if you like to look at it that way. So building your own index and looking at stocks which are moving the same way will help you to spread your risk, to buy several of those stocks rather than just one stock in an index. Again, quite advanced because you have to be in the realm of buying 2s and 3s and 4s stocks at a time. And you move on to that as your trading grows, and the way that Matchmaker allows you to look at the market differently from everyone else will be a great benefit to you as you move on. But that's all I'll say about Portfolio and Matchmaker, because those are, as I said, sophisticated tools. What I will be doing is going through the rest of these icons here and explaining what they are, and hopefully showing how they can be of use in your daily trading. So I'll start off with perhaps the easiest place to start, which is charts, because most of us actually understand where a chart comes from and what it is that we're looking at. So here I have a chart. A lot of you will have this row of chart patterns in here, and perhaps while you're all there, you make a note of it if you haven't got your system open. But if you have got your system open, then you can go to View and take the tick out of Chart Patterns. Now, why you want to do that is to give you more desk space so you can see a bigger chart, but also it's a waste of space because those chart patterns are part of a third-party product which is no longer available on WinWay because the supplier has changed the way they actually create their indications and their patterns, and so it's not available on WinWay anymore. So remove those and they won't get in your way. But what we have now here is a chart window, and the chart window is broken up into 3 sections really. There's the chart at the top, there are the indicator section below, and on the right what we call the barometer view. The barometer view gives you a barometer of the stock you're looking at. So here we're looking at Anglo American. Its chart ticker is AAL-LON for London, and we're looking at 19th of March. I'll go into these numbers a bit later. Over here on the right hand side, there's basic information about the chart, about the day, because we're looking at the 19th of March. We're looking at the 19th of March because the line here is the latest line, and the date will follow. So if I use my left arrow, I'm moving backwards in time, and you can see that there is data for each of those days that I move back. Well, let's keep it to the current date. We see the 19th of March. The close was 1095, high 1162, etc. So you can see the close, high, low, and open for that ticker. And you can see the movement from the previous day. 46 down, 71 down, 86 down. I wonder why they're all down. I don't think many of us need explaining. Right, so that explains where that stock is on that day. But under here, we've got the indicators. Here are the indicators at the top section are indicators which are plotted on the chart themselves. So here we can see the green, red, and blue indicators. And I've got 3 of them there. And I can just click on these if I want just one of those, about the 40-day moving average. Well, it's not the moving average, that's the exponentially smoothed average. Then I just click on that. If I hold my control key down, and I can click on others to add them in. Darren quite often has the 10, 20, 40-day ESA already on there. And we put Darren's indicators on here, although there are many other indicators in the system which you can choose from. And I'll go into those in a second. But moving through the barometer, we also see below the line are indicators which are plotted under here below the chart. So you can see both. And here I've got the MACD WinWay. I can put the volume WinWay, stochastics, etc. Now, I can have one, or I can, by holding the control key down, just like above, add all of these to it. Now, what I can do, there are lots of shortcuts, and you'll get to know these as you get to know the system, and as you follow help. I'll take you on to the help section in a minute. But let's just move through this chart. One of the shortcuts is the Z key. So if you highlight a particular area, so if I want to highlight the charts, click on anywhere in the chart, and then press the Z key, and it'll focus in on that to get rid of the underlying indicators underneath. Equally, if I press the Z again, it'll bring it back. So pressing the Z key just toggles between those two states. Equally, if I want to see the underneath indicators in more detail, I highlight it by clicking on it and then press the Z key, and I can see that all on my chart. And when I press Z, it will toggle between the full screen and just the below indicators. So I can highlight both of those. And if I've got more than one indicator below, so if I press my control key and have 2, I can highlight the volume and use the Z key and have all the volume, or I can highlight the MACD, press the Z key, and I'll just see the MACD. So you can look at any of the indicators below or the chart over the whole screen just by pressing the Z key. Right, so there we have the chart, the 3 sections of the chart screen, and now we can work on the chart in various different ways. So at the moment we've got an arrow, which just means we can follow the arrow round. We can move up and down the chart using the arrow. So if I go underneath, just underneath here, I get a little matrix appears, and I click, then the line will go to that date on that part of the chart, and the data for that date will be appearing on the right hand side here. So here we're looking at 20th of April 2018. So just below I can just click on there. Equally, I can use the cursor at the bottom here to drag myself along, click and drag along the chart to look at history. And the history goes back a fair way. This one, we're going back to 2009, it will go a lot further back right to the beginning. This one obviously didn't start before 03. But you can drag yourself along, or you could use these arrow keys, which will do the same by clicking on those arrow keys. Or, as I say, putting the arrow underneath the chart and clicking to get to that time. I've got myself into a hole because I'm way back. What I don't want to do is start clicking forward. So I've got this Adobe Connect thing in the way. Let me move it out the way. That's better. So I can now drag myself back to current. Equally, if I want to find a date, So if I want to find, I don't know, January the 1st, 2012, I just push D on my keyboard and this new date window comes up. So if I change that 20 to 10, hit enter, the system now goes back to that 19th of March 2010 for me. And I can look at the markets then, or whenever I want to look at the markets. Now, an interesting, I'll say that for later actually, apologies. But you can go navigate all around the charts using the navigation mode with the arrow. Now, if you want to annotate the chart, then you can click on Draw Trend Lines. And what Draw Trend Lines will do is it gives you a crosshair. I don't know if you can see that crosshair as it moves. Also in the top corner here, that crosshair, whatever position it's in, we show the date and the price of that position. So if I want to see what this peak is here, I put it over and I can see that's the 8th of January 2010 and the price was 2,950. So you can look across. Now, equally, what you can do is now draw a trend line. So if I want to look at a trend between these two peaks, I start at the top, click and drag and let go, and I have drawn a trend line across. Now you have the ability to make that trend line stop, or as I got it here, to extend. So that will complete the extension, will keep going as the chart moves forward. That trend line will continue to go. I mean, I've done one 10 years ago. It's very unusual that that you'll have a 10-year-old trend moving forward, and it's now disappeared because it's too low. But if you draw yourself a recent trend line, then as you move forward, you'll be able to see as the days move on that that trend line will complete. Equally, you can annotate the chart in other different ways. So you can add up tick lines if you think, hey, we're going up there, or a down tick. I think it's going down there. So you can point to things, and you can put text in just by clicking on the T for text, clicking on the chart, which opens up a little window, and then start typing. So down here, etc. So you can put on the chart. Equally, you can draw Fibonacci arcs, Fibonacci fans, retracements, time zones, Gann fans, and I'll just explain one of those. If you do a Fibonacci here, you drag it, and it'll show you the Fibonacci levels that appears. I won't go in now to explain how Fibonacci levels work, but you can always look that up on Google and see what it's about. Equally, you can look it up on help text. Help text is a good perhaps place to segue you to that. And in help text, it's case sensitive. So I can look up here in the index. Shows you all of the features within AIQ Charts application. Again, for AIQ Charts, read WinWayCharts. So all of the features are in here. The chart, how you view, how you draw, trend lines, Fibonacci arcs, etc. And other topics that are on there, some of which we'll be coming to later. But everything is in there, all the features of the application of charts. Now, one of the useful points I want to point you to is Technical Indicators Reference Manual. So if you click on that, there is a list here now of all the technical indicators which are contained. So if you want to know what upper and lower average trading bands are, an exponentially smoothed average, you can open up and it will tell you what they are, what the values are, and how it's used in WinWay. Equally, I was going to show you, closed out help there, I was going to show you here the Technical Indicator Reference Manual. Within that, I was going to show you how you use it to look for not in there. I'm looking for the Fibonacci's, and I think they are in the section before. Fibonacci arcs here. So this explains what Fibonacci arc is and does. It's constructed by drawing trend line between two extreme points, a trough and an opposing peak. Three arcs are then drawn, centered upon the second extreme point, etc., etc. Shows what the radiuses are and what the levels are, and what Fibonacci does, and how to put those in and change them. So it explains for all of the indicators what they are, what they're used for, and how you would use them. Moving on with the indicators, or how you draw on a chart, let's focus on the chart. So I'll click on there and use my Z key. This is very useful of drawing regression lines. If I go into regression line mode charts, you can see there when you hang your mouse over most of these icons, it will show you where you are. So that says draw regression lines, and you'll be able to draw your regression lines on there. But what it does, you can take any 2 points on your chart and it will average out. So, you know, I might look at this and say, oh, I want to draw an average, you know, from here forwards, and I'll go into trend line mode and I'll say, yeah, I think the average, you know, from there is sort of like that. That looks like average. But what regression does, it takes you from that point. So you'll click on that point and then drag to the point you want to go. And, sorry, lost my screen now. Yeah, so sorry, I was going to drag from one point here to another point here. Blame me out again. You've got too much on this chart. Right, let's clear the chart up. Two ways of clearing your chart up. The first is by hovering over any indicator that I've got there. So I've got a line there, a trend line, and I can delete that particular trend line, or I can delete all of the items on that ticker. So here I'm going to delete, and that's where you can extend your line or keep it, your trend line, or leave it as it is. You can change individual properties also of lines that you've driven, or global properties of them as well. But so you've got complete control over those lines that you're drawing on your chart. But I'm here going to delete all items, so that clears that out. So when I look at this chart, and let's expand it out, because you can expand and contract your chart. This one's pretty compact, but let's expand it out so we can perhaps see a bit better how we move from point to point. So I'm now going to take an average, say, between that point and sorry, there's a little not playing ball with me today. My mouse is just a bit temperamental. So you can take an average between 2 points there, and it draws an average. Now that is the calculated average between those 2 points, and obviously much better than if you use trend line and just guess it. It's easy to guess. I'd guess something like that, to be honest. But no, that is the actual calculated trend line. So regression lines is very good to use when you want to find where the line is regressing to, where the particular pattern you're looking at is regressing to. Right, so I explained here, back. I've explained here that we can draw on the charts. I got rid of all those items. I didn't really want to do that because actually now I want to put some stuff back. I've got some text. And I want to show you that what you can do is to keep that text. Because this data is on your PC, all of that work that you've performed on that ticker is actually your work. And you keep it, you store it, and it's there for whenever you need it, until you decide you want to delete it. So that stays with you. Now, before moving on, I want to show you how to look at other stocks. At the moment, we just looked at Anglo-American. So there's a very simple instruction, and you just push the Enter key on your keyboard. If you push your Enter key, what happens is, whatever you have in the window above called the Explore window, we've got a bunch of lists which come with the software. One Darren uses a lot is the SP500 STK, which is a list of the S&P 500 in alphabetical order. So it's A, L, etc., all in alphabetical order. Now this is the time when I can show you how actually using the data on your PC can be a lot quicker than having a web-based product where things are not always, where the data is not always available for you. So, oops, let me get myself into. Yeah, I think my mouse is on strike. Right, that's what I wanted to do. So we can look at one chart, but what Darren does, he very quickly flips between charts, comparing and looking for opportunities. And he's able to do that because he's got a very trained eye. And that's what really we're all trying to learn, to have that trained eye. But this is where WinWay helps in that process. If you look, I can go to the next stock and the next one, and I can go quicker like that, and go as quick as possible so that the last stock you're looking at doesn't disappear from your eye's view before the next one appears in your eye. So you can scan through and look for a particular pattern and very easily spot it. Now, when you're having to wait for the World Wide Web to update a particular chart each time you move, then it's too slow and you can't see it. Other products get around that by saying, oh, we can put 12, 20, an infinite number of stocks on your screen at any one time so you can see them all. But of course, you just can't. For a start, the more there are on your screen, the smaller the chart gets, the more difficult it is to view. But the other thing is, the more stocks there are, you have to move your eyes across the screen, up and down the screen, to compare them. And when your eye's moving, you can't really see and compare what you're looking at. So the best way to view stocks, and the professionals will tell you this when they're flipping through, is to keep your eyes focused on the middle of the screen and just go through looking for those stocks. Now, this is what Darren's teaching you to do, but I don't want to, and I don't want to stop you from doing that, because you have to learn the basics before you move on and use the sophisticated shortcuts, if you like, to finding things. I said before the software was all about analyzing stocks that you're looking for and getting the system to do it for you. So I'm going to explain a bit later how you can get the system to do it for you without you having to tap through and through all of the stocks, all of the 2,500 stocks which come with the system out of the box. But nevertheless, we'll carry on with charts because there's more I want to show you on this. So there are two views, if you like. By pressing my Enter key, I can get back to, oops, there we go. I press my enter key, I can get back to what we call the barometer view, where we can see that particular stock and the barometer of what's going on that stock. By the way, these indicators here, the 10-day, 20, 40, this box on the left gives you a barometer indicator of how that indicator is moving. So full red means that indicator is moving downwards. I mean, that's hardly a surprise when you look at the chart. Sometimes it's not quite as obvious as that. But it will tell you today where that indicator is headed. Now, if you move back in time, we'll start to see a time when it wasn't all like that, when it wasn't all down, when it was up. So here the market is going up, and it's showing that it's up yesterday and it's up, continued to be up today. When you see a red arrow, it means it was green, but it's just turned red today. So it's on the turn down. And as we move forward, more and more are on the turn today. And then after they've been down for a day, red shows it was down and it's staying down. So it shows you how it's moving down. Equally, you get a green to show that it's moving up. We'll have to go back a bit before we can see that. So yeah, here. So there it was red, and we can start to see that it's just turned green, and they're turning green, and now they're fully green as yesterday was green, today's green. They're all green until they flip over. So you can see how a stock is moving, the barometer, the feel of what that stock is doing and what the indicators are showing you for that stock for that day. So that's the barometer view, and here is the list view. Now the list view, as I explained, is a view of all the stocks that are in these lists. If I wanted to look at the UK 350, I click on that and I can see the whole of the UK 350, again in alphabetical order. Now equally, I can look at UK All, and UK All is a list which is set into groups and sectors. So there's the UK Master, which is basically everything in the UK. And if you look here, we can see that we can get a chart for all of the UK stocks. Or you could just look at UK Capital Goods and get a chart for UK Capital Goods. And that capital goods is a sector, and within the sector you've got two groups. One is the UK Aerospace and Defence. Thank you for coming to my help here. And the other is the Industrial Engineering group within the capital goods sector. So it's set out like that, and you can move between the groups, between the sectors, between the groups, or right down to the stocks. So the stocks in the UK Industrial Engineering are BOY Bodycoat, Hill & Smith Holdings, etc., IMI, etc. So these are the individual companies within the groups and sectors. So as I said, it's very useful to have stocks in groups and sectors, because as we discussed before, stocks do tend to move within the group that they're in, and groups do tend to move within the sector that they're in, and sectors equally move within the index that they're in or market that they're in. So there's a correlation there between the market, the sectors, the groups, and the stocks within them, that you can minimize your risk of investing by keeping, once you've discovered and decided which group you're going to invest in several stocks in that group rather than just one stock and hope that it follows the group. So those are provided for you for the UK and also for the S&P 500. That is also separated into groups, sectors and groups within the sector. There are obviously a lot more in the S&P 500, say a lot more, there's 500 of them, there's 350 in the UK 350. Right, so these are lists, and you can look at the list, you can look at the Dow 30, and that's obviously what it is, the Dow Jones index of the 30 top stocks, and they're all there. But more and more you want to build your own lists. Now, how you do that is quite simply, and I'll show you. You can, by the way, as you can see, I'm closing down stocks all the time. As I'm opening them, you can keep opening stocks, or you can close them down each time. I can change my system so that when I add a stock, I can replace the current one. So if I want to put whatever the stock A in, that replaces the current one. So that Apple Computers now changed to Agilent Technologies, which is A, or chart ticker, or I can put a new chart in, which means it will add it to it. So now if I want to look at Apple, you type in AAPL and that will appear alongside it. Now, if you want, you can keep going and you can have a dozen of those windows open, but as I was saying before, less and less benefit the more windows you've got open. What we concentrate on is building lists rather than lots of stocks on the screen. We build lists so that in those lists we can quickly go through the lists, look at the center of the screen and compare all those stocks in that list very easily. So how do I produce a list? I mean, everyone calls it a different thing. We can call it a watch list, a tag list. That's the nomenclature we use in WinWay to have a tag list. So you can tag a stock and put it into a list. And I'll demonstrate how that's done. The first thing to do is to create a tag list. And surprisingly, there's a menu item up here called tag list. So I can set a tag list and we can give it a name. We can grab an old one. So these are the current ones that come with the product. So you can always add a stock to any of the lists that come with a product by creating a tag list with them in. So we can add to them. Or normally, we would put a new tag list in. So I click on new and I'll call it new one. And OK. And now I've set up a current tag list, which is called new one. Now I know it's called new one because I don't know if you can see at the bottom of my screen here because my taskbar is in the way. I'm going to get rid of my taskbar. Locked. Away taskbar. Let's close that out. My taskbar won't go away. No, sorry about that, guys. For those, maybe you can see it, I'm not sure, but at the bottom of the screen is a notification area in WinWay, and at the bottom it will show which tag list is currently active. So you know whenever you tag a stock where it's going, and that will show at the bottom. But at the moment, we will just tag a stock. Now, don't think I've even set that tag list, you know, because I exited out of it. Let's do it again. New one, and we're going to go OK. List already exists, so it does exist. Okay. So let's cancel out of that. So if I want to click on a stock, there's no tag list set there. Let's have a look. Let's look for a new one. There it is. So we've set that as the tag list. Now when we set new one as a tag list, as I said, it should show at the bottom of your screen. Those that have got the system working will be able to see it because you won't have my taskbar down there. For those that don't, it is down there. And you'll know that there's a tag list set because up here we've got add to tag list. This button becomes live. It looks like a luggage tag, and that's the icon that's used to add as a tag list. So if I want to add ACN to that tag list, I just click on the icon. Now, because I've got the tag list confirmed here, this pops up and says, yes, I want it tagged there. The current tag list is new one, so ACN will be tagged to new one. And you can also see that at the bottom. When you get going, you'll get to realize it's much easier to not confirm the tag list because you know it's going to happen. And so if I would add the next one now, I want to add ABT, when I click on tag list, it just tags it. And it shows that it has been tagged because it now says remove from tag list. So the ABT must be tagged. So if I clicked on that, it would remove it from that tag list. So it's a quicker way of adding to a tag list. So I'll go through now and add a few stocks to the tag list, like that. Like that. And like that. So I've got a few stocks I've added to my tag list. As Darren would do, you'd go through the SP500 and say, yeah, let's have a look at that one, let's have a look at that one, let's have a look at that one. And he would be tagging them to a tag list. Now, how do we look at that tag list? Well, the answer is it's a list that appears in the Explore window for our use everywhere. So here we'll have it, and here's our new one. We click on that new one. Here's now is the name of the list and the stocks which I just tagged to that list. So now it's a simpler case of going through those tags by clicking down. So you very quickly go through those and see how they, it says file not found because new one is not a stock. Right, so very quickly to look at a tag list, very easy to create a tag list and to add to it, because all you need to do is, from any list of stocks you're looking at, to click on the tag and it will tag to the current tag list. If you want to change that tag list, of course, you can at all times go in and change the tag list to anything else you want to change it to. And now it's the tag list where it is seen down at the bottom here, but it will show S&P 100. Right, so we can tag, we can make our own lists by tagging, and I do apologise because I'm obviously getting no feedback from people. If you want to chat, please do. We'll try and have it at the end of the session, and so please, for this go round, try and have your questions ready for me afterwards, and we'll maybe go through those. I see the chats going on here. Hey, Ray. Hello, Steve. Can I see any chats?
Yeah,
no,
I've been handling
see any chats, Steve.
No, you don't, but I'm handling it all, so.
Great. So there's people chatting. Everyone's chatting to Steve. That's great. That'll keep Steve busy.
We'll do a webinar to show you how to use the webinar again.
What a good idea. That's an excellent idea. So thanks again, everyone. And I did explain at the beginning, but I will again in case more have joined. This is the first time we've used this, and we'll get better and more used to it, and be able to run sessions like this in a way that is really beneficial to everyone. So apologies if today seems to be a bit like a monologue with me just going through the system, and I hope to be able to make it a lot more interactive as time moves on, so you can contribute better. But I suppose it is what it is for now, and I'm glad that we've even got this benefit of being able to do this at short notice. And of course, everyone is welcome. We will run these sessions, continue to run them on a monthly basis. So you are welcome to come and join again. And hopefully by then we will make it more interactive. But I'll continue for now. And if there are questions, chat and keep Steve busy. I know He's looking to keep himself busy. You have to remember, though, that for him, being in California, he's 8 hours behind us. So it's it's like 8 in the morning. He's not quite up yet. so be easy on him.
Coffee.
He's got his coffee, so that's okay. Right.
Yeah, Ray, can you move the chat thing out of the way again?
Yeah. I just brought it up so that I could see if there were any chats. So I'll get it out of the way again.
Right. Just minimize it. Just get it down there.
Oh,
Great.
Oh, good. I've lost my menu bar, taskbar as well. Excuse me a second. Let's sorted that out. Right, now I'm glad I've got rid of my taskbar, so you can now see the tag list at the bottom here where it says tag list SB100, so you know where your tag list is and what it is you'll be tagging to should you tag anything, and how to find what you tagged will be shown down at the bottom there. Okay, right, so we've been through charts, how you move around charts, how you annotate charts. And I wanted to show you how, when we store the information on our charts, and the fact that it will always be there. Now, we've long gone from that stock, and I hope I remember which stock it was, to be honest. I think it was AAL, but let's have a look. We were in the UK. And I believe it was AAL, it was indeed. So when I come back to AAL now, I've been all around the houses with this, my text is still there, my trend lines are still there, and arrows, etc. Everything I've stored on this particular chart is there, will remain there, always for your use. So you are building for yourself a real library of your history, of how you actually use the system and how you store all of the useful information. Stocks which you have traded, stocks which you haven't traded, stocks which you won't trade, etc., etc. Or just information, just interesting information about stocks, when to watch for them, etc. Now, you will notice that it's exactly the same as I left it, but also there's more I can do. Because up top here, there's a little, I can get the icon to move on it. Let me show it. But it is a notepad. Now in that notepad, every single stock has got its own notepad. So you can put useful information on it. Don't touch with barge pole. Very useful stuff. You can put your stocks, when you traded, what you traded on there. You can put news items and all sorts of things in there because you can cut and paste things into it. And then when you're finished with that, you can close the window and save it. Now, you don't have to save it to anywhere, it knows where it saves it to. That's where it saves it to. See Wintest 32 notes, AAL, London. So it will save that, and now you've got a file that has been saved for all time for you. And if you look down at the bottom of the window, I can get my bar to go away, it won't. No, but there will be an in your activity bar down at the bottom, it will show there is notes. It will say notes. Then you'll know to go to the notes icon, click on the notes icon, and your note will come back for that particular stock. So the system will tell you when you have a note as you go through the stocks, and then you can click on the note button and get your note back. So again, you can store all the information you need about your trading, about your connection with any particular stock as time moves on. And as time moves on, you will get to know more and more of the stocks as you get to trade them, and you'll learn more and more about them. And this is the way to store that knowledge. So that's what we can do in terms of charts, in terms of creating lists, in terms of recording your activity around those charts. So I want to move on now to maybe some more sophisticated things, because a chart package, after all, is just a chart package. And there are lots of chart packages out there. And you can say, well, Ray said that this is good because it's, it's an application and you can really trip through stocks. That's great, that's fine, but that doesn't really justify the whole thing. What starts to justify you using WinWay as opposed to any other charting package, some of which are free and very good charting packages. But what they don't do is what now AIQ and WinWayCharts start to do, which is to add some intelligence to your charts. It's very easy to draw a chart on a charting package. The question, though, is what chart do you want to draw? How do you find out which charts you want to look at and why you're looking at them and what you're looking for? That's what charting packages won't tell you. But technical analysis package such as WinWay, with its AIQ, its intelligence, will actually start to help you with. So let me explain what that means. For instance, as an example in WinWay, we've looked at the charts and we've looked at the stocks, as I showed you here, AAL, and we've got this little 2258 in there. And if you look on here, what that is an expression of what the ER is. The ER is an expert rating. And what an expert rating is that the developer of AIQ way back when looked at the market and said that, wouldn't it be good if we could have one indicator which showed us how that stock is going, whether it believed it was going up or down or nowhere. And what he did is he looked at the major indicators that move the markets and he weighted them in terms of their importance and added them together and created an index, an indicator called the expert rating. The expert rating has values for up expert rating between 0 and 100 and down between 0 and 100, not surprisingly. So it gives a view as to where the stock is going. Now, when I say a view, it is no one's view. This expert is purely in the numbers. The numbers are, let's face it, just statistics. They are data which comes in each day. They don't lie and they don't have an opinion. So what the system does, it looks at that data in the same way, evaluates the indicators, weights them, creates a number for them, and creates a number which in itself is meaningless, but as it moves will help to understand where a stock is going. And in the extremes will show you the direction. And when we say the extremes, the guy who developed it reckons that if you're talking over 95, you've got enough statistical correlation to say that that is a real indicator of what's happening. The odds are really stacked for it if it's over 95, between 95 and 100. Anything less than that doesn't really tell you much about it. So if you look at this AAL for today, 2258, it's showing you really not very much because it's neither up nor down 95. Now we can move along to see where we're coming here. So we find something that does describe what's going to happen. Here's a 98 up, interestingly. There's a 95 down. They're pretty much early indicators because they look at indicators which foretell what's happening. When I say foretell, I don't mean in the sense of a seance. I mean they are indicators which look at trends which are changing, which are ending, and therefore the expectation is that it will change its view. So it sees the top of a run or the bottom of a run rather than the increase, the way up the other side or the way down the other side. So it's an early indicator, and here it's looking at an indication of a 95 down. Now, 95 down of itself just about fits the criteria because it's 95 or over, but we look for an indicator which gives us a view or confirms that down signal. So this pretty much in WinWay we use the phase. So I'll set up the phase and at the same time show to you how we can add more indicators into our chart. Now if we press the enter key, we get from the list view back to the barometer view, and I want to look at the phase because the phase is something that tells us whether a particular ER setting is a confirmed one or not. So how do I add? Well, in chart, I go to settings, and settings, indicator library, charting. That gives me here a list of all the indicators available in the system. The ones selected are the ones on the right-hand side here that we have selected, but there are plenty of others that are available but not selected. So I want to look at the phase, so I'm going to flip down here till I find the phase, use the arrow to send it across to the other side. Once it's across the other side here, I'll OK it, and now my phase appears on the right-hand side and available for me to look at, which I will do. So what you want to look at is where the phase matches the expert rating. Now here, we know that with the presence of hindsight, you can clearly see that the phase completely turned, but at the time, not really an indicator at that stage, because the phase, if there's a down, the phase has to have a downward trend, and here it's just about level. So it's actually not really explaining very much at that stage, so it's probably actually not confirmed. So what we're looking for is confirmed expert ratings to tell us that the system pretty much expects that stock to go down. How do we know what's going on? Well, there's a very useful tool up here at the top called ER, the expert rules. And what they do is they show which of these indicators that are part of expert rating have fired. And what do we mean by fired? Well, we mean that they're in such a state that because of their weighting, they have a big impact on the expert rating. So if I could read here, and I don't know how, hopefully everyone can read as well, but I'll just read the first one out just to explain a bit. It says the analysis of the rate of change of the exponentially smoothed average price, or ESA as we know it, suggests the start of a downtrend for this equity. The rate of change is negative and continuing to decrease, which indicates increased downward force. This is bearish indication for a continuation of this move. So it's saying that the ESA is turning negative. Equally, it's saying also the equity price has crossed and closed below the intermediate term 7% exponentially smoothed average. So we've crossed below the ESA. The price has crossed below. And again, it says this indicates a continuation of the current price movement. It's considered a weak bearish signal, which is sometimes followed by a downward movement in prices. Not always, but sometimes followed by downward movement. So if you go through these, for every expert rating that there is, every day on every stock, there will be the indicators which have caused that expert rating. I would recommend that at the beginning you start to use this because to understand how the different indicators that you're looking at actually affect the market and actually affect that particular stock on that particular day and how it interacts. Very useful. So the expert rating is a very good way of getting an early indication of what a stock's doing. So when I say early indication, it's good to look early doors, as they say, create a list of those indicators and then follow them through for the next 2 or 3 periods to see if that indication actually is coming about, and then invest accordingly when you can see that that trend really is coming in. It would be nice to be in at the top, at the bottom, or out at the top, but in this business it's a matter of working out your best statistical chance of getting a good result on a trade, and you're going to be pretty lucky to meet it exactly at the top to sell and exactly at the bottom to buy. So looking at an expert rating helps you to know when that's about to happen, so you can follow it quickly when it does. Now, as I said, you'll get a list of these things, and that would be great to have, because I can go through this particular stock and use my arrow key to find the 95s. There's one, 99, 99 up. And in fact, it did actually move up after that, but as we can see. But nevertheless, that's not confirmed either, because the phase is turning south anyway. So nothing is really confirming in here. It's interesting to see that. But it would be easy to move around, and also we're not looking for historical expert ratings, because we want to know what's happening today. We're investing today. Great when you're doing paper trading to look at that and to trade on that basis and then move forward. But when you're live trading, you wouldn't need expert ratings today. So I can look at each and every stock and look at their expert rating. So I can come down here until I find a 90 odd, and I can keep looking. I don't find anything going on today. Pretty I won't even bore us with doing this. I could do that exercise, or I could get smart. And this is another area where WinWay gets smart. And we have a feature called reports. Well, what reports does, it takes a certain set of circumstances, as trading strategy, or a particular function that you're looking for in a trade, and actually looks through all the stocks and finds those stocks which are following that trend. So, for instance, it would be nice, wouldn't it, to find all those stocks which today had an expert rating of over 95. Luckily, the designers have thought of that one before, and they've created, in these stock reports, there are about 200 odd of these stocks. So they are, as you see, embedded into files and sort of into folders and files within those. In fact, folders within folders. So one of these is expert analysis. So if I push the plus button to get down into files within that folder, I see there's an upside expert rating and a downside. So let's look at the upside. What this does, it gives us a list of all the stocks which today have an expert rating of over 95, although it starts at the top and goes down the list until it puts them in order of expert rating. So you can very quickly, instead of tripping through the stocks, just look at your report and find all those stocks which, as it says here, on the 19th of March, which is close of play yesterday, had an expert rating of 100 up, or for that matter, if we wanted to, 100 down, depending on where we think the market is going today. Who knows? And watch where your strategy is for trading. It's great, and we've got a list of those stocks, but that's not too helpful, is it? What we want to do is see them on one of our lists. And again, thankfully, designers have thought of that one. So we've got a little button here to make life easy called Build Report List. Click on that button, give it a name, we'll call it Rep 34, just for fun. Click OK. And what that does, it takes us straight into charts. We get this splash screen coming up. Every time you go into charts, you'll get this splash screen, which shows you how to get in contact with me. I'm your point of contact for all support in the UK, and I'm available on support@winwaycharts.com, and also available on the phone. And you can also call the States if I'm not around, and it's late, and you want to get some info. Best though to get in touch with me. Best get in touch with me by email, because I can always respond to an email wherever I am, and I've got a load of answers to many questions which people ask, and I can quite often very quickly get back to you with a hopefully a useful answer on email rather than on the phone. Not always available on the phone. Try to be. Nowadays, perhaps I am a bit more, as we all are probably, being at home, but email is probably the best way of getting hold of me. When you get bored with that, and you know my email address because you've emailed me many times, or phone me, you can click this button here, which will say, do not show this message again. So click on that and it won't appear again. Right, so what I can do then is to go into charts, and now what it's done for me, it's put Rep 34, which is my report of all the stocks over 95, and I can now see a list of all those stocks. So I can look at them knowing that those are all expert ratings that have fired today. In other words, they are over 95. So if I'm looking for stocks that over the next few days I can start to think of making money on, those are the ones to look at. There are no guarantees at the moment on anything, of course. In these volatile markets, we have to be watching very closely to see what's going on, and I'm sure everyone is. But in more regular markets, those are the ones to completely focus on, so you know where they are going at any one time. Now, equally, in going back to reports, I mentioned that these are stocks which have an expert rating which is fired, but not necessarily, they have not necessarily been confirmed. So I get an action list here of upside expert ratings which have been confirmed. So here your action list is of those that have not only got an expert rating, but they are confirmed because the phase is showing the same. So again, you can shortcut your shortcut. I would advise less and less to shortcuts. So you're very happy with the manual way you're doing it, and then the shortcut way you're doing it. So each of these are to be used sensibly as you move up along with your understanding of the markets. It's very easy to use shortcuts, but you have to understand what those shortcuts are doing, and also the shortcomings of the shortcuts. Everyone has one. Expert ratings are not 100%. Even confirmed expert ratings are not 100%, but they increase your chances of looking, finding more importantly. So as you can see, in terms of reports, there are lots of other there are reports with price changes to the upside, ones with price gaps if you're looking for a gap up. These are all stocks which have had a gap up today, probably a bounce, but nevertheless a gap up. So let's look at those. We'll call it gap up. And again, I'm going to open my charts. That will show me those gap up stocks, and I'll get rid of my cursor by typing A. It's one of those shortcut keys again, like the Z, where I can move the cursor, not the cursor, the line, the bar, showing where you are, from a bar to get it out of the way and show it a diamond just at the bottom. So I'm going to open out a little so we can see a bit more, focus in. But this stock has gapped up today, and here's the gap there. And we can move down them to see that they've all gapped up. This one, 170 here, 111. HSBC, interesting, gapped up. So they've all gapped up. So if you're looking for gapped up stocks, you don't have to flick through the SP 500, and you don't have to look for a particular thing you're looking for. You can find a report that does that for you, and then create a list and look at these. Now, if you see here, I've got stocks from London, I've got currencies, I've got US stocks, got a whole mixture. You can run your reports based on all of this data as I have, or you can narrow it down to just US or just UK or any of the explore lists that you have in the system. So you can run it by explore list, change it to look at just the NASDAQ 100 or just the S&P 500 if that's where you're trading, or the 1500, whatever you wish. So again, filtering out those stocks that you're looking for to trade becomes easier. Right, now has some asking questions. I won't ask questions because Steve will get all the answers, and I'm sure he's busy typing away there. But Darren goes through quite a lot of his strategies within his videos and in his classes. And he's got various strategies that come up, and you can run those strategies on WinWay. Now, how you do that is in a product which we call Expert Design Studio, or EDS for short. And as it says here, EDS, if I can show that again, scan database and backtest. So EDS is actually a very sophisticated part of the program, a very sophisticated tool. It's a programming language in its own right. Don't expect anyone to start using that programming language until they become more super users that want to get the best out of the software that they're using. Certainly for now, you want to be following what Darren is creating in terms of strategies. But when you move on and you're becoming a trader in your own right, and you're out there on your own, like we are all, when you're self-isolating and trading, you will want to build your own strategies, and you can do that using EDS very easily. And there is also a widget which helps you to build programs. By programs, I mean strategies that you want to follow. And you can also borrow other strategies that are there. There are hundreds of strategies that come with the system that other people have shared and put online, and indeed you can share them between yourselves, because these are called .eds files, and once you have a .eds file, you can run it in your WinWay. So if you write something that's good and you're proud of it, you can share it with fellow users. Equally, it works the other way too. Others can share them with you. Now, Darren shares some of the ones that he has had written for himself, and so we find those in EDS. Now, EDS opens up. Basically, it's not intuitive when you're not used to it, but you go to File and open one of the EDSs that you want to run. Now, as you can see here, there are a whole bunch of those EDSs. Now, for those who have not perhaps used this before, your view might open up with somewhere else in your system. But to get to the EDS, it is in the WinTest32 folder in your C drive. So if you can see here, go to Windows, which is this computer, and then this PC, go into Windows C, then WinTest32. WinTest32 is the folder that contains everything, or virtually everything, there's always an exception, virtually everything in your system. All of your data, all of the application, and all of your settings, all of your notes and annotations, all kept in WinTest32. So if you are backing up your system, make sure you back up your WinTest32 folder, because then you will not be at risk of losing any of your data. You can keep that for future use. Equally, if you want to run WinWay on another device, You might happen to have one, laptop, and you want your PC to run it at home as well. Then you can install WinWay on both of those systems and move your Win-Test32 folder between them. That becomes a kind of baton to keep your most up-to-date system available for you at all times. So within that Win-Test32 folder, you've got your EDS strategies. So find them, go to EDS strategies, and here they are. So there's quite a lot of them. And again, these are nested within folders. So there's a whole bunch of ones here. Now I've been installing this so many times in the last few days and weeks because we've launched our new product, which I'll share with you in a minute. So I haven't got all of Darren's reports here. So I will find them because I've got them elsewhere on my system. So instead of EDS strategies, I'm going to find them somewhere else. And I've got them, I believe. Bear with me while I just find these. There, I've got them here. So moving average hug, for instance, is one which Darren uses, and he will share with you as you go through the printers classes or some of his trading and share that particular file. Once you have that moving average hug EDS file, then you can put it into your EDS strategies folder and run it. I happen to have it sitting somewhere else at the moment, but here it is. So I can run this for any day I like. At the moment, I'm going to run it a bit more currently. All right, for 13th of March 2020. So I'll run all. And what that will do is go through all those stocks and look for stocks which have got a moving average hug. And again, don't worry too much about what a moving average hug is, because Darren will explain that as you move through the course. But this is where you will come. There's actually only one stock there because I think there are so many, there's so much drastic movement in the charts that there's not much hugging to anything at the moment. But anyway, if there were more stocks, you would have more stocks on this list. And again, just like in reports, you go to the report, the list builder, chart list. So create a list, which we'll call hug. And you can select ones that you want. So if you just want the top half, you can select some, but I'm going to run all because there's only one, and create again a list of those. So it's iShares, Lehman. This Shy is the only stock which has actually got where the moving average is hugging the price at the moment. Unusual times. Anyway, that is how you will use Darren's strategies to follow his strategy and find the stocks that conform with his strategy. Now, what Darren will do, because he doesn't use reports, for good reason, he doesn't want to teach you how to do the shortcuts. He needs to teach you how to do it yourselves and you're under your own steam. So you understand the underlying basics and can follow. So he will, with his own head, move through and find those hugs. But nevertheless, that's a way that you can use it to find those strategies. And maybe he will expect you to use that particular strategy in the system. I'm talking more in general about reports that Darren doesn't use. He will use that strategy because he's sharing them with you. So he is meaning for you to use those particular ones. My comments are more general nature that says, don't run before you can walk. Good. So here we have a great way of creating lists. And here again, That list is available. All the hug list is there. It will always be available for me to look at and follow as the next few days move on, to come back to it. Make annotations on the chart, make notes of the chart of that particular symbol, and then and move on with that and look at that over the next few days. When you want to get rid of, I hear someone saying, without hearing, I hear someone say, how do I get rid of all these tag lists that I'm now building? That is easy too, and it's a good segue for me to move to the next area that I want to show you about. Now we've seen a bit of the system itself. That is the data manager area. Now, if we go back into the main menu, the way to get to the main menu, two ways. Quick launch menu, this sort of T, it's more of an L on its side, icon will always take you back to the main menu, quick launch menu. Alternatively, a quicker step is to look for the icon along here. They're quite small, but you'll get used to looking for them on there. So I can see there's the filing cabinet, which is the same here as this filing cabinet, which is the data manager. So I'll click on data manager. And in data manager, I can manage all of the stocks that are in my system. The first thing is to note here that we have a list of all the stocks. So I can go up and down, and there they are. They're in various order. So if I click on the symbol, the word symbol, I can order it by alphabetical order of symbol. The numbers come first and then the letters. If I do it by description, I can do it in alphabetical order of the description of the stock. Equally, I can do it by type. So I can look at indexes, or here groups, or stocks, etc. Or quite often what I want to do is look at it by market. When I look at it by market, we can then, for instance, you want to look at London, they're all X, that's over the counter, etc., etc. It's New York. Keep going down until we get to LN, which is London. Now I can see all of my London stocks if I want to do it that way. So I can see all of the stocks that I've got in the system. If I want to see if I've got a stock anywhere, all I have to do is type the start of a symbol. So if I want to know if BME is in my database, I can type BM. I don't need to type BME. Just type BM, and it'll take me to the BMs. I happen to be lucky there's only one BM. So you just type as many symbols as you know into it, and it will take you to that symbol. Now BME, you can see here, is the European Value Retail B&M, which is some kind of ETF, I would guess. Let's look at more. Let's look at BAE Systems, more of a regular stock. We can see here that we've got data. The first date of that data is 4th of January 2000, and the last date was 19th of March. So the first thing says, look, we're updated. We've got 19th of March data in here pretty much. And it tells me I've got 20 years of data for BAE Systems. And you'll find older ones in there. There's zeros, 03s, 09s, and you'll find it going back 92s in some of them. They go back quite a long way, but normally around 20 years or less, depending on how long the stock's been in existence, obviously. Now, what one can do is to look at the stock. So if I double click on that stock, I can see that it's got a description. I can change the description if I want. And I can also do lots of different things to it. So I can look at, the thing I'm going to focus on here is the data. If I click on data, I can see the data for every day going back 20 years. If I actually move this down, I can see it's 2001. I can see all of the data, the opens, high, lows, close, and volume for every day since 2000, or since the data started. Down here in 2001, I won't bore you to go down. 4th of January 2001, 2000. Great to see it, but sometimes it's really useful. This data is yours, remember, and you can actually take that data and correct it. Sometimes, quite often happens when you've got a charting package, you'll see what's called a spike. A spike is when there's been an abnormal price, quite often very far away from where the market is. Now sometimes it's a real spike in that someone really has paid over the odds for a stock. If you've got a fund which guarantees that it'll have 63% of its stocks in the FTSE 100, and at the end of the month the FTSE has dived, and he wants to get stock in, he'll have to pay whatever it takes, and sometimes they do pay over the odds and put a spike in the data. Sometimes someone manually puts a trade in and has what they call a fat finger and buys a stock in pounds instead of pence or something like that, so he's way away from the market. What happens then is he goes screaming to the operator of the market. They look at the stock, they speak to the buyer, they speak to the seller, and they say, okay, we recognize this is a rogue, erroneous trade, we'll undo it, put it back to normal. The guy who put the trade in gets fired, of course, that's what they do, and then the system gets put right. Now, that can take days to happen. Meanwhile, you've got a bad tick on a stock, and the bad tick on a stock can create a flat line effect, because the scale that you're looking at a chart depends on all of the values of all of the entries in that chart. So to show everything in the chart, it has to scale down. So if you've got something that's like 1,000 times or 100 times as big as it should be, the chart's going to be 100th of the size, and it'll look like just a flat line. You won't be able to see anything. So it's important you get rid of any bad tick. So I can do that because I have control of the data. So here, for instance, I'm going to do it the other way around because it's there. Instead of 507.80, what happens if that was 1507.80? Okay, because there was a bad tick in there. I tick OK and get out of that stock. When I open that stock now, and if I, sorry, wrong there. Right click on that stock and chart ticker, that will take me to the chart for that ticker. And I now see, you now see what I was describing. We put something in that's way above the market, a bad tick, a spike, and it's made this flat line. So you actually really can't see what's going on. So if you get one of those, you want to deal with it as soon as you can without waiting for the vendor or waiting for the market to decide what's correct, and then the vendor to correct his data. You could be several days down the road. So how do we fix that? Well, we know how to fix that. We go back to where we were before, into our BA systems. We noted that the date was today, so we go and look for the date, and here it is. Oh, there's a bad tick there, so I'm going to remove that 1,000, put that back to OK. Now when I chart ticker, boom, it's gone. That spike has gone, and now I've restored my chart. So you've got a great deal of flexibility because you've got the data to be able to give you the chart that's important for you. It actually does not so important what the high that day particularly was. Even if you don't know what the high was, you can set it to the same as the close. One day won't affect things because it's pretty close to the market, or it will affect it if it's 1,000 away from the market or 100 away from the market. That really does make a problem for your chart. So correct it. You can always go back and update your data, and that's a good segue for me to take you now over to the next feature in the suite. Again, I'll go to your main menu and go into COM. COM is where you update your data. Now in the trial you won't use this. This is the only feature you won't actually use because you don't have a username and password. password. But if you are trading, you will trade. If you have a subscription, you will go to setup options, and then go to dial data, service dial data, setup, and input your credentials in here. Your user ID and your password, which you are given when you subscribe. That will enable you to update. So when you want to update, you go into data retrieval options, and here you have a whole bunch of options of how you can update. You can update the master list, which is everything in your system, or if you just want to be, you've just made an adjustment in a few stocks, or you just want to update quickly just one user list, you can do that. And here again, every one of your lists is available everywhere in the system. So if I just wanted to update, you know, my gap ups for today, then I can do that too. If I want to just do a ticker, if I click on select tickers, I can just update ticker A, for instance. And do I want to update it from last update? Typically, yes. The system knows, as I showed you in Data Manager, what the last date is that it's got data for. So it will only ask the servers for data after that date, from last update. However, where you've corrected a ticker, you might want to go back and reload some data, or you may have created some errors in your data by playing with it. So never worry, because you can always go and reload data. So you just go back from the date that you need to set it from or to, and reload the history for that particular stock, or for the whole damn, excuse my expression, or for the whole master list if you like. Obviously, it will take longer to update the whole master list than just one stock. Now you can update either immediately, or as I said before, you can set it to automatic. So by putting a time in there, I click in the app, putting a time in there, and then setting it to go automatic. I'll show you how to set it to go automatic afterwards. By putting a time in there though, and saving the setup, you will then automatically update your data. Again, there are provisos with updating your data automatically, that the machine has to be switched on, that it hasn't gone to sleep, and that you've got an internet connection. You don't need WinWay to be actually running at the time, but as long as your internet is connected and the machine's not asleep and awake, then you can update it. So you can update these. I would recommend everyone does, updates the groups and sectors each time, so that the groups and sectors are kept intact, and to generate the reports every night as well. So that will generate every one of those 200 odd reports and recalculate them, so that when you come in the morning, if you've done it at night, or even if you update during the day, which takes around 5 minutes to do for each day of update that you've got. So if you do it every day, it takes 5 minutes. You can also, under EDS post-processing, any reports that you want to run automatically, you can set to run automatically here. So if I add, there's nothing in there, I'm just going to take a random report. If I want it to run efficient stocks, I can open those. That efficient stocks EDS will now, because it's got a tick on it, I can disable it by disabling all, or enabling all. So that will now automatically run every night. So when I come in and open up that EDS report, it will have yesterday's data in it. Right, I won't go to updating those, because that's the next step. Then it's just to update, and you can update all of your stocks, one stock or whatever. Right, that's just going through here. Auto processing, you should have these all clicked as well, so that when a stock splits or a dividend comes out and it affects the pricing of the stock, that your history is changed, so you don't get any blips in your chart, because say a stock has gone from $1 to 50 cents, but there are twice as many of them. Nevertheless, the chart will show 100 and then 50, and you'll think it's lost half its value. It hasn't. It's just been a split. So this takes care of that and adjusts your chart history so that it always looks like it was 50p. Right, so then I will just update this. When you start to update, it will just go ahead and update for you. Right, it's done it while we've been asleep. Okay, let's. There was nothing because I think I'm up to date, so I don't think it will have updated A again. Oh, wait a minute. I had it clicked on at 12 o'clock. That's why I didn't update. Now it's gone to immediately. It will now update. Right, it's connecting with the server. It looks for who's there. It recognizes me, and now it's updating the stock AA. There. Disconnects, transfer complete, so you know it's done, and we're done. So I updated AA. So that's how you update your data, either manually or automatically. Automatically, as I showed you, if you click on the at button, you put the time you want to update, and then before you leave, set it to automatic update. To do that, in your main menu, the quick launch menu, under settings, go to timed update data retrieval. Okay, when there's a tick in there, it will update automatically at the time you've set it. Now be a little bit careful, because when you set that, and I now click on my COM or my data retrieval button, the system just minimizes itself. You can't open COM, it just minimizes it. So if you saw it quickly, I'll do it one more time. It appears and then disappears and you think it's broken. But all that's happening there is it's saying, go away, I'm set to automatic, so you can't change me. So if you want to get back into COM, take the tick off, timed up data retrieval, and then when you click on COM, it will open up for you and give you access to it. Right, so that's COM. Now what I wanted to explain, we're getting towards the end now. We've just launched the new version of the product. We're quite proud of this because it represents a step change in several different ways. The first is we have got an additional data supplier. As well as eSignal, we now have dialed data as a data supplier. And dialed data give us some extra features and functionality into the system. It gives us the ability to update US stocks during the trading day. So, for instance, if I want to update, I tick here intraday updates, and if I want to now update, say, I will do it. If I want to update stock A, I will now update it. And what's happened here, I can see it, but I'll show you. It's now running, did you see that? Flashed up there. It ran that EDS report that we asked it to run automatically. So it did that as well when I updated. But now when I go to chart, and because I updated A, Agilent Technologies now has a date, 20th of March. So we think, whoa, that's today. That's not the closing price today, but it's a price that's about 30, 40 minutes old. Every so often, the server updates itself with current data. That can be 30, 40, 45 minutes out, but it tells you where today is going. Gives you a bit of an advance. If you want to trade at the close, before the close of US, you know what today's price is to build into your chart. And I've now run my EDS report, which will include data for that particular stock on that particular on the 20th. And of course, I can run it for all US stocks. So I can then run my expert ratings reports and all the other reports to see what stocks I should be looking at to trade today. It gives me a little bit of advance on the market. And we think that it's a great halfway house between having end of day data, which is how we used to have it in WinWay under eSignal, and having streaming services, which are quite expensive because the exchanges make it that way. They have exchange fees, which they charge, which ups the price of providing that streaming data. So this is what they call snapshot data, which takes it as of a certain point, but at least allows you to take several points during the day. It's a great halfway house, and we've added that to the product to give people who want that a way of getting in to updating data on today's date without having to pay streaming data charges. The other thing that we've done is to put some currencies into the system. Now these currencies are indicative prices. They are end of day prices, so they're not streaming or real time. But nevertheless, if you're looking out over a period and you're looking to swing trade them over a period, they are a great indicator of where that currency is, and you can do your analysis on it. So, I mean, they're all going to look, well, GP obviously has recovered and declined again. But that's where we are with GBP. Woof. Anyway, let's not worry about the content for now. Let's look at better times when we can manage that movement. The point is, we've got currencies here that we can look at and analyze in exactly the same way as we do stocks, as to see what's moving, what's turning over a daily basis. They are to 3 decimal points rather than 4, which is the normal trading significance that you get. But that's because they are reported at the end of the day by several different providers who all have different prices, because there is no official market for foreign exchange. It's just between people who are trading them. So we've taken an average of different vendors and trading sites and averaged those up and rounded them to 3 decimal places to give the average. So it certainly gives you a great indicator of where that stock is moving over that day and how it's moved over time, which we've discussed before. Important to look at the trends that you can see appearing and being created. So not only do we get those 7 pairs, comes with those 7 pairs, but everyone wants, you know, a different pair to look at. And there are over 3,000 different pairs available that when you subscribe to the currency pairs that you have availability for to add to the system. Right, I'm running a couple of minutes over, so I do apologise, but we're nearly at the end now. The other thing is to explain to you the pricing and how that comes up. It's all on the website, so if I don't get time to go through this in detail, please check on the website. Now, a great way to get to the website is using the charts application. There is a link here to the tutorial, and the tutorials are kept on the website. I definitely advise watching those tutorials. They're really important to get you started. And certainly if you've forgotten anything I've said today, or everything I've said today, that's fine. You can watch tutorials. Steve does some of them, and others are doing some of the others. But watch the tutorials, and they're available here on the website. So how do I make my WinWay look like Darren's, using Trading Expert Pro the way Darren does, and also getting started with charts part 1 and 2, very useful. And if you want to move on, you can at some stage getting started with Expert Design Studio. RT Alerts is just for streaming data, so don't worry about that for now. So tutorials are important, but why I've taken you here is we're now on the website. What's also is you can see the plans, and I've set those out here for you to look at. And this is the pricing. So the Trading Expert Pro, which is equivalent to the eSignal version, which we used to have, it used to cost $121 per month. but that is now down to $114 per month. And now we've got the ability to add on the snapshot at $138 or go for the snapshot and the currency pairs for $150 per month. So for less than the cheapest streaming, and we can still get the e-signal streaming data for delayed or real time. Those are still available at 182 and 204, but be a little bit careful because you have to make them work properly, extra exchange fees charged by the exchanges to get the data. And details of that are all on the system here. So exchange fees and service fees are here under plans. So you can see the costs of, so for instance, New York is $5, NASDAQ $2, Amex $5, etc., etc. You get different exchanges and the prices are there. But those exchange fees are in addition when you go streaming. Now this is the reason why we recommend that really if you're on Darren's classes that you stay with the end of day, but take advantage where you can of the snapshot, which gives you that jump into today's trading. We think that's enough because you're not day trading typically, you are trading on a swing basis, which is like 2 to 3 months, 2 days to 3 months in duration. Knowing exactly the price at exactly the right time is not as important. So just knowing where the market is in the US is really important, just to make sure you're not miles away. But remember, when you go to trade, you'll always get a real-time price from your trading venue. Anyway, your broker will tell you what the current price is, so you can always see that the current price is within the ballpark of how you've been doing your analysis. If it is, you trade. If it's not, clearly you don't, because something's up. Either the price is completely wrong or your analysis is completely wrong. None of the two. It's an indicator of when not to trade rather than when to trade. But it's within the ballpark of where you've been doing your analysis and where you set your stops. Then you're in good shape by just going to the streaming or real-time data with your broker. So there I have it. I think that's what I have to say today. I hope Steve has been answering your questions. I'll try and get back to the chat area and see if there are any questions that I can answer now. If not, please email me support@winwaycharts.com. I will answer any questions you may have, apart from when is the coronavirus going to terminate. I don't know the answer to that one. I wish I did. But please ask me any questions that you can. I will get back to you. And if I don't know the answer to it, then I know Steve does. Let's put him on the line there. or he will know someone who does. Let's put it that way, one of the developers. So please ask me the questions. I'll get back to you. Got any installation problems? Also, email me, let me know, and we'll deal with them on a one-to-one basis. So thanks very much for attending today. I'll see you all online and look forward to supporting you in the UK. So goodbye, and stick around if you want current questions answered. Bye-bye.